Hi and welcome to Life on the Ground podcast with your host Kazim Sheikh. You can find us by searching Shaky Sports Journeys on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. Something very different for you today. Very, very different. We have a special guest who is a ex-firearms police officer for Police Scotland, no longer in the force, doing some different things these days. But we're going to hear a bit more about her story today, her time in the police, some of the challenges she faced, etc. So I welcome Rhona Malone to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you very much, Kasim. Yes, I'm quite excited, looking forward to it, nervous, I suppose, as well.
Well, we've been trying to get this recorded for like 4 weeks, I think now, 4 or 5 weeks.
I know.
And we're going to talk about your new venture soon. But to be honest, I'm not going to put the blame on you. It was all on me. Struck by COVID, some other matters that needed attended with, and then you cancelled once as well.
I did, yeah.
But we're here, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you today. So what I want to do is kind of take you in a wee bit of a journey through your life.
Okay.
And I want to start by asking you, where did you grow up? Tell me a bit about your childhood, family background, etc.
Okay, so let me think way back. I was born in Germany, in Frankfurt. My dad was a computer engineer, so they lived in Germany for about 10 years, and my sister and myself were born over there. And around the age of 5, they decided to move back to Scotland because they wanted us to have a British education. But my family have always been extremely close. You know, we've been a strong family, always spending a lot of time together. My sister, she unfortunately lives down in England, which is lovely because the holidays are great, but she misses my mum and dad terribly. But we spend a lot of time together, and they mean the world to me.
Do you speak fluent German?
No, I don't. I understand. So I think up to the age of 5, the vocabulary that you learn up to that age, you know, I certainly can understand up to that level, and I can speak some. It was something I should have kept going, but I didn't, unfortunately. My sister and my parents, though, they're fluent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you didn't fancy it?
No, I did. I just never, you know, as you grow up, other things are more important, aren't they?
What did you aspire? What was your kind of, as you got to your kind of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you start to kind of form ideas of maybe what you want to do with your life, and what road you want to go down. Some people don't until quite late on, but just from talking to you already, you strike me as somebody that would have been already kind of planning out what you wanted to do with yourself.
You know, I'm going to surprise you and say not. I struggled fitting in, I think, a lot when I grew up. I don't know if that was anything to do with coming from Germany and trying to fit in to a different culture, because I was very much used to, you know, a totally different way of life in Germany, if you like. And so I spent the next few years struggling, trying to fit in. And I think I just, you know, managed my way through life. But as I went through high school, there were things that stuck in my mind. And one of them was I had a huge interest in being a beauty therapist. I also wanted to be a police officer. I even went on some work experience to Livingston Police Station, the old police station.
Two very opposites, Rhona, though.
Total opposites.
Total opposites.
I just didn't know. I was just trying to find my way, what I wanted to do. And I wouldn't say I was ever your typical beauty therapist. You know, I was never into makeup or nails. It was always body treatments, massage, and, you know, so I'm always been very a physical person, any job that I've chosen. So yeah, beauty therapy and a police officer. I think my uncle was a police officer as well. So I think, you know, hearing some stories, knowing what he did, that had an influence as well growing up.
What about your family? When did you actually decide then that you were going to go down? I mean, did you leave high school? After leaving high school, what did you do for those couple of years? Or did you go quite young?
So after high school, went to college. I left high school at the end of 4th year. Again, I struggled in school, but I went on to college, did sport and leisure. I actually taught aqua aerobics at one point.
Nice.
I thought that was the way ahead, but it wasn't. Ended up in like the Department of Work and Pensions for a few years, and then I became a mum at the age of 20.
Okay.
So see, when there's major life events like that, that is when I basically took stock and thought, what is it that I want to do? I've now got this child that, you know, it was a shock. It was like hitting a brick wall. I can remember. She's absolutely amazing, and I love her to bits. Megan, she's 24 now, but at the time it was like, oh my God, my world was just upside down. So you really have to think, right? Or I thought, right, what am I going to do in my life? I need to do something for an influence on her and for me. So that's when I decided to go in to do beauty therapy.
Oh, so you did go down that, you did do the beauty therapy thing. Okay, so you
did.
ticked all the boxes in the end. So how long did you do that for?
Oh, I did that until the age of 33. So from the age of 21 to 33, I was basically at college, and then I worked at various salons, and then near the end I worked for myself. So, and in between that, I mean, it was a great career to have because it was so flexible, and I ended up having another 2 children. So I had 3 children, and then I ended up separating from my husband. So I then faced going through a divorce at the age of 32. So that turned my world upside down again. And again, I had to sit down and think, what am I going to do? You know, I've now got 3 children. I'm on my own. How am I going to support my family? So I then joined the police.
So why obviously you went through the divorce is not easy to deal with. It's tough on everybody. But I take it during that time the beauty therapy just kind of started slipping to the business, took a hit, or
the business basically ran from my house with where I lived with my husband, and you know, we were together from a very young age. So, you know, we managed 3 children. We moved house about 3 times. We basically grew up together. So, you know, near the end, it was tough. It really was. And I look back on that time and it was sad. It was really sad, and it was horrible that the relationship broke up. But I think he would agree with me now. It was the best thing. And I had the 3 children, and I didn't want them to grow up thinking that that's what a relationship should be about, because it was quite volatile at times. And I just looked at them and I thought, I never experienced that growing up. You know, it was a very loving and stable relationship that my mum and dad had. I was very lucky. I know a lot of people don't experience that. And it was full of love in our house. And it broke my heart in the house, because I thought my children are growing up thinking that arguing and fighting is normal. And I knew how much that would influence them. So I had to take a step back and walk away from that relationship, from that marriage. And I do think it benefited them. It affected them maybe worse in other ways, but I wanted to show them that, you know, you're responsible for your life, and whatever you do in it, you have to deal with the consequences. And I hope that they see that. And we have had conversations, especially with my daughter, and I think they agree that it was the right thing to do now. And I mean, they're doing really well. So, you know, I don't know how it would have worked out if I'd stayed in that relationship and they grew up with that volatile and violence round about them. But certainly they're doing really well now. So
good to hear. Glad to hear it. It sounds like, you know, these things happen in life, Rhona. Unfortunately, I've been through divorce as well. So I think sometimes it's the best. You know, there's no point being in something that's, you know, affecting you and affecting people around you. But I'd imagine with children involved, as I know, it's not easy, and you think about their feelings. And I think a lot of people maybe stay in those type of situations for the children, and they regret it in their later life. So look to be doing all right. your kids are doing well. That's the main thing. So the polis, 33, you've done the beauty therapy tick, and you've now decided, right, I want a bit of the police action. So talk to me about kind of the recruitment process and how I believe you go away for a couple of weeks. I know a few people that have, is it Tilly
like
Allen or
15.
something? Is it Tilly Allen or something like that?
Tilly Allen. So when obviously we had the bad separation with my husband at the time, so there was a lot going on, and I was getting a lot of support from my mum and dad, and I was renting a property in Bathgate, and I can remember having that conversation, right, I need to do something and I need to get the money to support my family. And I had this passion for the police a long time ago, and I saw an advert about joining the police, and I can remember having a conversation with my mum and my sister one day. We were out walking, she was up visiting from England, and I happened to mention it, and they said, don't be so silly, Rhona. You've got 3 children, you're a single parent. Why on earth would you want to go and join the police at this time? Just calm down, take stock of what's going on. That's not me. I've never been that person. I've just, see, when I get a passion and an interest and I'm enthusiastic and driven, I go for it. So it was like a challenge. The minute they said that, I thought, oh, okay. So I went and joined the police, and I've never been so proud. Sorry.
So you got into the police as what you're obviously getting those emotions back, and I'm going to understand there's going to be different stages of this chat that you may feel you're going to get emotional because you're probably going back to that place in your headspace right now, and it must have been a very overwhelming moment for you, and your family, and your family as well, that you've done something like this at a time in life where a lot of women in your situation would probably just kind of float through life as much as well as they could. So to go out and take on something completely different, I think is a great achievement, and I'm sure your kids were very inspired by that as well. I'm sure you gave a strong message to them at that point that, listen, you can do anything you want. That saying gets branded around, but your story and where you've got to so far in it right now is living proof of it. I mean, you were used to being giving massages and nice creams and blah blah blah, and having your clients come round and leaving all, and now you've gone into totally different line of work. So early days, then you're in the police. Would you have just been out on the beat, as they call it, or
So I joined in 2009, and the June 2009, it was 15 weeks. So it was residential at that time. I know it's different now, and I think there might be a lot of it online, and not as much, you don't have to be up there as much at Tilly Allen. But I was there for 15 weeks, and bless, my family were just amazing, because between them and even Martin, my ex-husband, I mean, he really helped out a lot. And you can imagine, we're going through a separation, I'm joining the police, and I'm asking him to take on all these extra responsibilities, but he did it.
That's really good to hear. That's great to hear.
He was a good dad, and he has a good dad. I mean, I will never take that away from him. So anyway, so I'm up there for 15 weeks, and when I came out, I was straight out at Whitburn Police Station. That was my first station, and I would really worked out there for the next 8 years between there and Livingston. But wow, just wow, what a culture shock it was. Confrontation, angry men, angry women, utter sadness, death, and despair. I saw it all. I saw it all, and it broke my heart. Some of the situations that I saw people in, and the way life had turned out for them. And it made me more determined to be a good police officer, to help the vulnerable, to support the victims, to get justice. I was very, very determined to do a quality job, and that people felt that they were, we were unequal, rather than I was a police officer and I have got this authority and this power over you. It was never like that for me. It was always about doing my best for my community. I worked in my community and I absolutely loved it. I loved seeing some people that I used to go to school with, not regularly, but I also saw the damaged people that I went to school with that I never saw when I was at school. And but I soon realised in the police it's very much about firefighting. There's not much, there's not really much you can do to prevent things from happening because there was so little of us on the street, or, you know, there just wasn't enough time in the day. And so probably became disillusioned at points throughout my career as well, you know, wanting to help people but not having the tools or the money, the funding to do it. But yeah, I absolutely loved being a police officer, and I saw that.
You strike me as, you just strike me as too nice to be a police officer. So, I mean, I can imagine you've got 3 daughters. I can imagine you're able at times. Or is it three daughters?
No. So I've got one daughter who's like 3 daughters.
Right.
I mean, she's exceptionally, we're very alike. So we have our moments.
Okay.
I'm very proud of her because she stands up for what she believes in. She's a very strong individual. And, you know, when we were talking about when I joined the police, that was a huge factor, was I wanted to show my children that you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it and you've got the resources and the tools. And there's a lot to be said about, you know, I'm very, very passionate about social justice, you know, about giving people opportunities. Not everybody has got the same opportunities. So the people that do have them should use them to the best of their, their best of their ability, if you like, and don't waste them. Don't waste them. So I wanted my children to see that. So I've got 1 daughter and I've got 2 boys. So Megan, Harris and Harvey.
All right. Okay. You got so the boys, they must have been, I don't know. I reckon I would have been like, if my mum was just all of a sudden decided she was going to go into the police, I'd be a bit freaked out by that. I'd be like a bit overprotective or something. How did the boys handle it? How did they feel about mum? Obviously, you would have been, shift patterns and stuff as well. So night shifts, day shifts. I mean, it's not easy. How did they feel about that?
So they were young. So Megan was like 13 when I joined the police.
Okay.
Harris was 7 and Harvey was only 2, 3.
Oh, yeah, okay. So
yeah.
And then by the time they would have got older, it would have been normal for them to see mum walking about.
It was normal. They didn't tell their friends, I don't think. That did not come up in topics when their friends were there. And Harvey, the youngest, he was just beside, I mean, he loved it. Every opportunity, had my hat on, or if I had my equipment at home, you know, the handcuffs, you know, he wanted to see them, and you know, he was just excited. He loved it, absolutely loved it. The other 2 weren't so much bothered.
Like, mum, can you take the cop? Can you
Yeah.
the copper jacket, please?
Yeah.
So, what was it like in your first 8 years? Obviously, you're just a PC at that time?
Yeah.
So what?
I was a police constable throughout. I didn't go for promotion at any point. So when I moved into like firearms later on, that wasn't a promotion. That was just like a sidestep to another division. Okay. And I mean, you can do that to CID. You can do that to the Child Protection Unit. There's like loads of different areas that you can go into as a police constable. You don't need to get a promotion. But certainly, I was in West Lothian for about 8 years, and I just had a great time. I worked with amazing people. That we had a great laugh. I mean, it was really like going and playing. It was like, I'm going out to play with my friends. I'm going out. Yeah, there was sadness and there was violence and destruction in places, but the majority of the time I was with people that I felt safe and secure with, and who I knew had my back.
So what is it like in a day with like when two police officers are out. Can imagine probably when don't have any criminals in the back of the car, or don't have it, or aren't going and checking in any situations that are going wrong, but you're just having a normal laugh. Do you eat donuts?
Yes, we eat donuts. We like cakes. We like biscuits. In fact, I remember once there was a biscuit gate. So, if you leave your biscuits lying for 2 minutes, they're gone. You cannot do that in a police station. And I remember somebody, a police officer, it was many years ago, complained. And I think they were even contemplating putting in a crime report for these biscuits. That's how serious they take it. But no, in between times, in between calls, there's a phenomenal amount of paperwork. So if you see a police officer for 5 minutes, give them a break, that they literally are probably just taking 5 minutes to themselves, because the physical stuff's the easy bit, if you like. It's the paperwork that goes with it, and the reports that you have to put into Procurator Fiscal, and I mean, it just goes on. It just goes on and on and on. Or it certainly was when I was there. Might have changed in the last couple of years.
Now, you take a sidestep, as you call it. I was going to call it a promotion, because I always thought firearms is kind of, you'd have to go through a process to get up to that point, to go into that line of work. So you're saying that you could pretty much go into firearms early doors, or that opportunity could come for a police officer when they...
No, so like you have got 2 years probation as a police officer. So you have to get that through that first, and you probably wouldn't be considered maybe until about 4 years in, I think, because you need to get the experience.
Yeah, I'd be a bit concerned if somebody just got into the force and had that kind of power in their hand very, very, very early, because
you've got situations like ex-army, people come from the army, so they've got experience with weapons anyway. So you can't, just because you're new into the police doesn't mean that you've got the maturity or the education or knowledge how to deal with firearms. So there are probably situations where people do come in, but certainly not before their end of probation. I don't think that's ever happened.
So you go into firearms now. What's that like? I mean, I take it you're now getting called out predominantly to high risk, dangerous, very, very dangerous kind of situations. You're not just getting called out to willy-nilly stuff that's going on, domestic stuff that's going on. So what kind of stuff would you have been involved in?
So it's threat to life.
Yeah.
So basically, if you've got people that have got weapons of any sort, if you've got people that are, wanting to try and commit suicide, that's a threat to life. So there are situations and occasions that we would go to other incidents, but things like pub brawls or street fights, that's something that we wouldn't go to, because you're put in a situation. I mean, the training to get into firearms is really intensive, and it's very much about working together as a group. You're not really on your own. It depends on the situation. So you don't want to put yourself or your colleague in that situation, because that's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, because if you went to, say, George Square when Rangers won the league, you wouldn't want firearms turning up and having to shoot. I mean, they were acting like idiots, but they were acting like idiots. They were doing it amongst themselves. It was just physical. Nobody was probably going to be getting murdered there. So it would only be, let's say, a situation where somebody's holding somebody in the house and threatening to kill them or something, or there's somebody tried to hold up somewhere. These are the kind of things that firearms would be called into. How did your family feel about that change in your career? Because that's obviously, it's dangerous, isn't it? Police are at risk in those situations as well. You don't always know what you're going to come up against.
So the difference between a normal police officer and somebody that goes into firearms or goes into roads policing or goes into any sort of specialised unit is that the equipment's different. So it's an extra bit of PPE, but you get extensive training on it. They don't just give a weapon to anybody. So when I approached this with my family, I'll be honest, they know what I'm like. I'm very driven. When I've got a passion and an idea, you know, I have to. And another thing was, you know, in the environment that I was in, it's very male dominated. So there is a challenge there as well. You know, it's like, you know, I'm good at my job. So for me, it was about proving to myself that I am just as good as my male counterpart, if you like. And that division was crying out for minority officers, you know, from different backgrounds and genders. And so when I joined, you know, when I certainly sold it to my mum and dad, that, you know, it's a great opportunity. You know, there's not very many women that do that job. I want to challenge myself. I want to see how good I can be at the training. And if it's not for me, then fine. You know, so I made it out as if, you know, I might not even get through the training. So, and then they never really spoke to me about it. We never really touched on the subjects. So I think they were worried and concerned. So
until it was maybe mentioned over the dinner table, by the way, I got over that training, so I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Well, at least you'd planted the seed. So how the training must have been hard, must have been pretty intense.
Oh,
to put you through.
It was. I went up to Aberdeen to do my training, and the officers up there, that were doing the training, they were just brilliant. I mean, we had such a good time. I had a really good group of officers that I was training with as well, and I have never done anything so physically and mentally exhausting, and it was 10 weeks. Oof. So I mean, there was times I was just in tears because it was just so intense sometimes. But see, that feeling when I got through that course was just exhilarating. It was just like, you know, for me, it was like an acknowledgement. I was getting so, it was like, for me, I was achieving, I was succeeding, I was doing so well, and I was at the top of my game. That's how I felt. I just thought, you know, I've been a young mum. I've gone through divorce. I was a single parent when I joined the police, and here I am, that I've actually achieved such a big thing, and that meant the world to me. It absolutely meant the world to me.
So up until now, Rhona, talking to you, it sounds like you were having a great career in the police. It sounds like you were okay. You maybe realised that you can't be out there being Spider-Man and Batman type, you know, that dream of just we can save everybody, we can sort out all problems. You're too stretched to do that. But obviously your intentions were always good, and you were enjoying being out and helping people and being part of the community. And then you go into this opportunity. Sounds like one hell of a tough task, that 10 weeks away. You know, I can only imagine the kind of training you would have been put through, really testing you mentally and physically at the same time. So it must have been really hard, and being away from your family. But you've got through that, and it's almost like you're having that another real uplifting moment. You became a police officer, but now you've done something that you probably never dreamed that you would ever get the opportunity to do. And then you go into this new department, and what happened in that period?
So, don't know where to start really. It was, so my career in the police up to then, as you said, it was just great. I mean, I was working at the Olympics. I was, I had the opportunity to go down there, and, you know, I'd been given opportunities that, you know, not many people get, but I thought, you know, that was my choice. I worked for every opportunity that came before me. So when I got into firearms, I had great expectations about what I'd be doing, what I'd be involved in, and who I'd be working with. And initially, when I first went to the division, it was great. It was just amazing. It was really good. And but I soon realised that there was something very different about it. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But in the police, it's a disciplined environment. So you follow rules and regulations. And I mean, there's good reason for that, because when you're put in a dangerous situation, you immediately go into training mode. So you know where you need to be, you know how to deal with the situation. And the same thing with firearms, but more so in firearms, because you've got weapons. You're going to be going into situations where there's going to be other weapons potentially, or people that want to hurt themselves and they want you to do it for them. So, you know, your risk assessing in that division is very different. It's like 100% more. So you're constantly thinking on your toes. You're constantly, I mean, if I was, you've got seconds to make decisions in that sort of job. So I moved into that division and it was very, very oppressive. That was the first thing that I noticed about it. You know, it was very, whereas I hadn't dealt a lot with management or dealt with senior officers, there was no need for it. In fact, I avoided them for the majority of the police career because I didn't need to deal with them. In this division, you did. So when I just noticed it was very micromanaged, it was very oppressive. And I struggled with that because at the end of the day, it's me making the decision. So if I pull that trigger, if I taser somebody, if I get my PAV out, if I do anything, that's my decision wholly. So I could go to jail if that's the wrong one. Mm-hmm. And in that environment, it wasn't safe. It didn't feel safe. And over and above that, and I think my perception of it was they wanted women in the division, but they wanted them there to tick a box.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they wanted me there for my achievements, for me being a good police officer, for me passing the training. You know, that was by the by. That was like, I think they expected me to come in and I'd sit in a corner, I've ticked the box, and that's fine. But I was a very confident person. And when I see things that aren't right, I call them out, and I've always called them out. And that's where the problem started, because when I started seeing things that didn't add up, that didn't make sense, I'm carrying a gun. I want to know that what I'm doing and what my management is doing is going to keep me safe, keep my colleagues safe, and keep the public safe. So, yeah. So it was oppressive, micromanaged, and management were very unapproachable. And I found that extremely strange, especially in that type of environment. You know, you've got that huge responsibility.
So when you start asking a few questions, because I could just imagine you, Rhona, sat in your hands just like, don't like this, but holding my tongue. When you started, why is this and why is that? What kind of response were you met with?
So I experienced gaslighting. So I had comments like, oh God, there's just so many. It felt like I was just being assaulted at every opportunity, or picked on, or belittled, or, you know, when I highlighted something, it was made a laugh out of, a joke out of, but I was being serious. And, you know, I would go along with it and be okay, just, you know, let it go, Rhona, that's fine. But then it started getting really quite nasty. And I had a few run-ins with it. And it's all senior officers. This isn't officers that I worked with on the street. You know, the people that I worked with at that time were very supportive. They were great advocates of mine. And, you know, they could see what was going on. And we were talking about it. And certainly there was a good couple of incidents. And there was one in particular which really upset me. In fact, there was a few, there was just so many. But what it basically come to a head in January of 2018. I got an email from my senior officer after I'd been out with a colleague, a female colleague. So there wasn't many of us in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I think there was 3 at the time. So myself and this female officer went out and we did a great job. We did a fantastic night. We loved it. We had fun. And I came back to an email from the senior officer basically, and I think it's very much out there in the public. You know, he didn't want to see two female officers working together to balance, mainly because he wanted to balance out testosterone from a search perspective. So, you know, like if we came across a male suspect, two female officers wouldn't be able to search him. So he was, you know, implying that because of that, that was a reason why we shouldn't have worked together. Although there's always two male officers working together, the same would have happened to them. But anyway, so from a search perspective, and he wanted to ensure that we were basically distributed amongst other male officers. And when I came into that email, I've just went through the things that I've went through in my life. I'm driven, I am committed, and I have worked extremely hard for what I've got over the years. And when I read that email, I did think it was a joke initially, but when I realised it wasn't, I realised that all the treatment that I'd experienced from senior management up to that day, it was like a light bulb moment. And I just thought, wow, you know, this division is just misogynistic. It's very discriminatory, you know. And that's when I realised they just wanted women in the division to sit in the corner to tick a box. And it was, for me, all that work that I'd put in over the years. Sorry, I'm trying not to get upset here.
No, listen, you're fine. I can understand
All
why
the work-
you'd be upset. I can
all the
totally
work that I'd
understand.
put in over the years was just dismissed, you know, like that was attacked. I felt attacked. I felt like I wasn't good enough. What he was basically saying was, as a female, you are not good enough to be on your own. You are not capable of doing this job as a female officer. You need a man to hold your hand. And it just, but confidence just, you know, really struck my confidence. It really hurt me. It really hurt me. So
I can.
And when I challenged that email, you know, I was angry at the time, and it was just used against me. So my reaction to that email was then used against me by these officers.
First of all, what's going through my head is you got into that department going through the same hell as a guy would go through to get into that department. You know, you went away and did your time for your 10 weeks. You've obviously shown that you're capable. They wouldn't have signed you off and let you through that training if you weren't capable to do it. It sounds to me like quite often it was just whenever you would speak in that department, I'm getting the impression it was just like, why is she talking? And why, you know, it's not nice for me to say it like that, but I'm seeing it how it is. I've seen it a little bit in sport as well. I'm not going to deny and say I haven't, where you will just get she's just a girl, or she's all right for a girl, you know, and stuff like that. And it's certainly changing. It's certainly changing. You know, women's sport is very much on the rise. But at the same time, you know, you were a very confident person. You were very determined woman. You'd been through some challenges in your life, and you've got to this point. And as a mother and everything else, probably one of the lower points in your life, I would say, when you kind of realized that this wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and you certainly weren't getting treated fairly. Hence, what you have a strong message out there now, for anybody that wants to follow you and check you out. You've got Twitter page, etc., and your logo, your tag is @sexism. Is it _stops?
Yeah, sexism stops here.
So it's very powerful.
So, yeah, I think I experienced a lot of inappropriate and bad behaviour leading up to that email, and I experienced horrendous treatment after I reported the email as discriminatory. And I had always anticipated that should I ever have problems in police, that there were processes and procedures in place that would look after me and support me. And what I found was that I was basically vilified. They tried to suppress me and keep all allegations that I was making as quiet as possible. And the reason that I came out publicly, so this has been going on since January 2018, and I came out publicly in, I think it was October of 2020. Now, I had tried, all I have ever wanted, there was no reason for me to go to get acknowledgement or accountability in the courts. This could have easily been fixed in the police. It wasn't difficult, it wasn't hard. What made it difficult and hard was the fact that they just kept trying to hide it and kept trying to suppress me. And they made me look like I was the one that was irrational and that I was the problem, that it wasn't the officers. And that made me extremely upset, frustrated, and I lived in disbelief for a long time, because the reaction that I got after asking for help for this to stop was just a very poor response, really, really poor. And as a police officer, and I've said this many times, had I not stood up against them and said something, I would have been an absolute hypocrite. And I am not going to be a hypocrite. I was a proud police officer. I love my job, and I did everything that I could to help people when I could, if I had the resources to do it. And as I said, my issue was not difficult to fix. They just didn't want to fix it. They had their own objectives and their own aims, and I wasn't part of those. So those perpetrators, because there was a couple of them, 2 at least, they were promoted even though I had reported discrimination, bullying and victimisation by, there was 2 senior officers in particular. Now, when that happened, it was just, I thought, I'm not going to get acknowledgement, I'm not going to get accountability here. And there's many other women.
It's a bit of a kick in the teeth, that, isn't it? When you've
It
got
was
a
a
complaint,
huge, it
when
was.
you've got a complaint and quite serious
I've got an ongoing complaint.
Yeah, and it's not
Yeah.
been resolved yet, and 2 officers have been promoted. That's that must have really not felt that would have given you a clear message as well that we don't really care. We're moving on. We're not.
Well, as police officers, we're out there to uphold the law. What happens when the police can't uphold themselves? You know, they can't hold themselves accountable. And that's happening more and more. And there's more and more women coming out and speaking out. So that, yeah, that is what I am trying to get out there. It is really difficult to speak out. It is so scary. It's horrendous. It's been a living nightmare for me for a long time now, which has resulted in me having a breakdown, and my mental health was affected really quite badly. But I've came out the other side, and I've came out because the more I spoke out and the more I helped other women going through it, of which there are many, that made me feel better, because it felt like a police officer again. I feel like I'm able to help support vulnerable people, and that I'm doing that through my own experience. So it's not easy, but if women don't speak out, if they don't stand up and share their experiences, then women like me are going to be left on our own. And certainly when I started doing this, I was very isolated. I couldn't speak to anybody because there was nobody out there, because if they had been through it, they'd signed NDAs with the police, so they weren't able to speak about it, they weren't able to reach out. And that's wrong. That's wrong, because when you have been a victim of an offence or a crime, you need to speak about it. So when somebody is trying to quieten you and suppress you and not share your story, that just stays inside. And that was killing me. That was literally killing me.
Take your time. Take your time. I can understand that this is not like a hunky-dory fun time you're talking about here. You know, I can't relate to you because I haven't been in that situation, but I'm listening to you, and it's sad because you seem so. I thought maybe we were going to talk today, and the police force was maybe going to have been from start to finish a bad experience for you. But then I don't imagine you would have stayed in it that long. But again, I'll repeat that the first 8 years or so was brilliant. You even mentioned when you went to go and do your training for going into firearms, you met some amazing people and you had one of the best life experiences. And then you've obviously gone into a department that very much was probably bringing you in because they were forced to bring you in because questions are being asked of diversity and different, it's important to have other faiths and religions and different gender. It's important because the discrimination goes on, so these people get overlooked a lot. But to get brought in that situation, especially when you're quite a very determined woman who probably wanted to go in there and do your job very, very well, to then be kind of made to feel you couldn't do your job very well and you're there to just do as you're told. It's sad, and then to get kind of told at the end the way you did. I think what makes me the saddest about it is that when you actually spoke out, there should have been more support put in place. I mean, these are the kind of situations, Rhona, where people can go away from that kind of moments and fester in their own thoughts, and people can take their own lives, and really bad things can happen. And you would expect, yes, 100%, that people that are in the police who probably see things on a daily basis that must affect them when they go home as well, should have a lot more support around like their mental health and stuff, because you don't know how. I mean, you mentioned this at the start, some of the things you've seen along the way. I'd imagine you probably went home at night and were just heartbroken about what you've seen, but you've got to wake up tomorrow morning and go back out and do your job again. There should be more. I would have thought the support would have been quite high in the police for something like that, whereas it sounds like you were just pushed to the side and left to deal with your own.
I was let down by the people. So for me, it's just a facade. So they communicate the support and well-being and help that's out there for police officers, as do the Federation, and it's not there. If you are not part of their aims and objectives, if your face doesn't fit, if you're doing something that's going to upset the apple cart, you're not going to get the help and support. Where I got my help and support was from my family and from some amazing people that I've met since leaving the police. I can't thank them enough. There are a few, so I couldn't go through them all. But without them, I experienced some really dark times, and I never want to feel that again. And I don't want anybody else to experience that or feel that, because there is absolutely no reason for it. Now, there are a lot of organisations out there just now that are set up, Police Care UK, there's loads, and they keep popping up. So you've got so many charities that are now popping up to support police officers because of their mental health, and they are needed. They are needed 100% of the time. But my argument with them is, because they're setting up, it's given the police the excuse just to carry on with the behaviour that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So their behaviour's continuing. They're not getting held accountable. They're not acknowledging the harm that they are inflicting on police officers every day, because those police officers are getting suppressed. They're getting made to sign NDAs. And I understand why they would sign NDAs, because there are many times when I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to give up. I just had enough. Financially, I am crippled. I lost my career. I lost my mental health. But I am so committed and determined that this is not for nothing, that I haven't went through this experience for nothing. And I want to help others so that they don't go through it. Prevention is absolutely better than the cure, and again, these charities are well needed, and but the police need to take responsibility for what they're doing or for what they're not doing. All these, and I could go on and on, sorry, but it's
listen, I got in touch. I got in touch with you when I actually seen something I seen on Twitter, and I had a look, and I've seen some of your tweets and some of the stuff that you're doing, and I had a look into your story to find out a bit more. And I think it's very important. You need people like yourself, and it takes a lot of inner strength, especially when you've been through. And probably the easiest thing to do would just be go away and hide and just But the fact that you've got, and I think that tells me as well that, listen, this is not nonsense you're talking. This is real. This has happened. This has definitely happened. And there'll be so many people that anyone that comes across this podcast from other career paths that will have seen it
Yeah.
and been through it with, dealing with higher management. Men, for instance, looking down the nose at women. You're only a woman, you're not important. But we're seeing more and more in the world now how influential women are. I mean, you just need to look at somebody I'm a big fan of is the New Zealand Prime Minister, and she's an amazing leader, probably one of the best in the world if you ask me. She's a woman, and she went through. You look what happened in New Zealand. One of the tragic things that happened where the man went in and shot all the people, and how she brought her country together and everything else. So women are very, very capable. If listen, my wife maybe way more capable than me in doing most things. I just get told what to do and I do it. So I know the power of women's opinions, their strength. They've got so many attributes, and this thing about men being macho, and we're everyone has skills, whether you're from a woman or a man. Some are more skilled than others, some are more skilled in other ways. It's about bringing their skills out, and it sounds like you weren't really allowed to do that when you went into the firearms department. And I applaud you for taking a stance, and I think you're doing the right thing, and you will inspire your children, and you will inspire many, many other people as well. And I'm sure you've had many people reach out to you since you've been on this journey and say, I can relate to what you've been through, and thank you so much, and how you've it. So that alone should give you the fight to keep going on, because somebody's daughter or somebody else's sister out there, or wife, or or mum might be considering going down that route, and you don't want to see that happen to them as well. So I hope the message, at the end of the day, police are very important, and we need them, but
Absolutely.
if they can do things a little bit better, then that's all you're ultimately looking for here. And you said it already, this could have been dealt with internally if somebody was just willing to sit down with you and go through this and say, right, what can we do to change this culture for the better, so it's more welcoming for somebody like yourself. And unfortunately that's not happened. But listen, you keep up the fight, and you will change. I'm sure you, in the end, you will change things for people, and people will talk about how Rhona Malone changed things in years to come, and that should give you enough drive alone, even though I bet some days you're just like, I want to give up. But
I don't want anybody to feel alone. I don't want any woman to be like me and feel isolated and alone. I mean, I just wanted them held accountable. That's all I wanted. Acknowledgement and them held accountable, and to get on with my job, because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But instead, they turned the tables and they made me look like I was a problem. And that's not fair. That's not right. And it happens all the time. So if there's any women out there that need help or support, please get in touch, because I do have a Facebook page. I do have a Twitter. I am on Twitter. I am on LinkedIn, and I'm always willing to listen and help and direct.
You've even come into competition with me. You brought a YouTube channel as well now. So everything can be searched for by going Sexism Stops. Is it Sexism Stops Here? If they
Sexism Stops Here, or Rhona Malone.
Or Rhona Malone, they'll find you on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube now as well. So please do get in touch with Rhona if anyone can relate to anything that's been said here today. I'm sure she could help you, or you might be able to help her as well, and you might be able to do some stuff together, because the more of strong women come together, I'm sure they can definitely make change. But let's finish on a positive note. We had a wee bit of emotional time there, some bumpy bits in the middle. I could feel your emotion coming out, and I'm not here to upset you, but I think it's important that we got out exactly what you have faced along the way. But now you're out there and you've launched a new business, your own business. Tell us a bit about it, please.
So I actually went and did a university course because, and I highly recommend this to anybody that's going through similar of what I've been through. My healing started, as I said, when I went public, but I also went and did a university course, a postgraduate diploma at Edinburgh Napier in career guidance, coaching and development.
Wow.
At the end of that course, which I've completed, the normal route would be a career guidance practitioner, which that was my plan. That's what I wanted to do. But what I found was it took me naturally to what I really wanted to do, which was another career aspiration since I was younger, and it was property. I always loved being involved in property. I just never knew what the right name was when I was younger. I just knew I loved that area. So I had this great opportunity come before me with a group called Keller Williams. So Keller Williams are a training provider and an advocate. They help people set up business, self-employed. And certainly when I left university, when I started looking for a job, I found it extremely difficult to even contemplate working for somebody else because I feel my trust in organisations is really low. Yeah. So I really didn't want to put myself into that position again, which meant I couldn't find a job because I wasn't willing to put myself forward for it, just out of fear, utter fear. So Keller Williams, I spoke to them, I got in touch with them because it's basically me being self-employed. And I spoke to many other estate agents, of which there are, which I'm not going to mention. And they were, for me, they aligned with my morals and my ethics, and they welcomed me with open arms. And one of the things that I loved about the police was the camaraderie, was the teamwork, was the being around people that were very supportive and caring. And I've got that tenfold. It was something that I never thought I would ever get again. But this organisation and Keller Williams Glasgow have been absolutely wonderful. They've been so good and inviting and welcoming and my advocates. So I am a self-employed estate agent. So I'm called Rhona Malone Property PA, and I'm based in West Lothian and the surrounding areas. I've got a property just now that's just going on the market in Edinburgh, actually. Wow. So I'm delighted to be sharing that. The details are on the Keller Williams website if you're interested, or my Facebook page. Everything is on that. But yeah, I am excited to be doing a job where I'm not a police officer, but I can help and support and be an advocate for other people. So I'm good at problem solving. I'm good at finding solutions and evidence gathering. And the selling of houses isn't that difficult, but the problems that come along with it, either with, before, during or after with people, that's about giving people support and care and looking after them and holding them by the hand if they want from start to finish. So I'm absolutely loving it. I am so driven and enthusiastic and passionate about my new career, and I want to share it with everybody. I want everybody to do it, I want everybody to join in. And again, I'm going out and playing with my friends. That's how it feels.
It sounds, I've been getting the buzz from you since, we've probably known each other a couple of months now. And, I can sense that. I can sense you're buzzing every day when we cancelling each other for the podcast. And but it's a good energy. It's always a good energy. And it's been, the recent one, you were saying, my training, I'm busy with my training, and but it didn't sound to me like you were like, oh, training's
not hard work.
You were buzzing, you were happy to be back out there challenging yourself again. The fact that you managed to go to university after all of that again and do what you did, very, very inspiring. I'll set you a target in 10 years' time. I want you to get to the moon now. I think you should I think you should go to space, because we've gone from beauty therapy, tick, did your own business, police, tick, gone through firearms, tick. You've gone now on to doing a new business venture, which you've said was something you were interested in as well. So who knows what's coming next. I'll be intrigued to watch you. But first and foremost,
So,
let's take this estate agents to a new level.
yeah. I want to be achieving and succeeding again, and I will be there. I will get there. And I think what I want to share with people is, if you've been through adversity as well, keep going. It doesn't need to be the end of the world. It doesn't need to be the end of your life. I've experienced that darkness. I've been there. I will never go back to that again, but I'll never put myself in that position again for that to happen. So, you learn from your mistakes. Everybody fails. Everybody fails at things. And I think I have learned and achieved so much from all the things that have caused me the greatest hurt and upset. Divorce, having kids at a young age, divorce, and then that horrendous experience of discrimination, which I wouldn't wish on anybody. I really wouldn't. But now I am doing it on my own. So I'm only accountable to myself. I love that. And I hope others are influenced by that in a positive way.
I'm influenced by you. I'm very influenced by you. I'm very very inspired by the way you've taken quite a few bumps along the way, and you've come back. That's impressive, and I hope this gets seen and heard by as many people as possible, because I think there's other people out there that would very much relate to it. Maybe not from the police point of view, but maybe from other areas, other career paths. And it might even be, for instance, it might be even guys that can relate to it from points of view that they may be discriminated against because of a faith of theirs, or everybody faces it in different ways, and it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. And we should be allowed to be who we are and comfortable as who we are as people, and not be discriminated against.
Yeah,
been an absolute pleasure, Rhona. Been an absolute pleasure. I'll be keeping your services in my thoughts. If I'm looking to come and invest around the West Lothian area at some point, need to get some money together first.
I can come to Glasgow. It's okay. I can come to Glasgow.
I can get a coffee then. I can sort the coffee out, no problem. We got plenty of good coffee shops in Glasgow. But no, we'll definitely meet up sometime soon. I've got maybe some people that you could meet. You're going to be looking to do a lot of networking, I'd imagine. So meet as many people as
no,
you can.
Kasim, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for this, and I'm so glad we finally
got it done.
Got there.
No, we've done well. We've done well. Hang on for a second, but been an absolute pleasure, and you've spoken very well, and good for you. Very proud of you.
Thanks.